Hey, welcome to season 3, episode 3 of the Rewind podcast. It's Reverend Sheree Thompson here, excited to bring you um, amazing exploration into the lesson sermons from Christ Universal Temple, the workshops, the whatever's going on at Christ Universal Temple. It's eligible to be on the rewind. And so I'm grateful to be here today as we are celebrating the beginning of the year, celebrating the season 3 of the rewind, that there is a commitment that we are demonstrating to your soul's growth and feeding the enthusiasm and excitement that comes off of the lesson sermons. I'm rewinding on the lesson from Sunday, January 18th, 2026. That was the lesson, and the lesson was given by uh, Gavin Jackson. Y'all saw the Reverend was getting ready to come out my mouth. The soon to be Reverend Gavin Jackson, and such a powerful word. The title of the lesson, we're in the Rethink Your Life series, and the title of his lesson is Lessons from a King. And I'm excited to dive into the lesson with him. But before I do, I want to first thank you if you're tuning in with us live. You know, we broadcast these live for fun, and you can always catch them on YouTube at CU Temple. You can catch them on Facebook at CU Temple, and you can catch them on your podcast platform. So I'm excited that that's going to be something fun we're doing this year, making sure that you can catch them on just your audio podcast platforms. So, and while you're listening, while we're tuning in, regardless of when you're listening, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, your feedback really matters. You know, it tells people, hey, this is hotness over here, and we want to make sure that we are reaching as many people as possible and supporting them and putting new conversations out there in the air. Sometimes we're just talking about a bunch of garbage, but let's look at ways we can shift our conversations with one another as we're shifting the conversations that are going on right within our mind. Because I know I'm not the only one that talks to myself here. So yeah, I think that's a fun way to kick off our experience here today. So I'm going to bring up to the hot seat Gavin Jackson. Gavin Jackson, come on in, sugar.
Hey, the hot seat, huh? All right.
The hot seat. Yeah, listen, it's a comfortable hot,
It
spicy
is.
hot. We're going to talk about your wonderful lesson from this past Sunday. How you doing today, friend?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Always good to be in the room with you, even virtually.
Yeah, man. Like I appreciate it. We had an experience where you put me in a hot seat. I was the host for you were the host for our last episode,
That
and
was
that was
fun.
much more fun.
That was fun.
Being in the hot seat is actually the easiest joy. Right. No, it was dope. It was dope. It was a great experience. And I'm excited to put you back there, put you back in the hot seat for today. Um so I know you open up the service, and this is just an observation of the process, right? Because I'm amazed at your process. I'm grateful for being able to bear witness to your process. So you had a different lesson and a different title before
Yes.
going in. So what brought about lessons from a king?
Well, and you mentioned because you preached the week before I did. And so in the beginning of it, it was basically, Reverend Wells had kind of laid out some tracks for us. And we always run on those tracks, that our leader lays down. But like at the last minute, it just started downloading to me that no, there's some other practical spiritual lessons that we're getting from this leader that we were celebrating, Dr. Martin Luther King,
Mhm.
and some other kings that are in our lives in scripture. And I just couldn't pull away from it. So yeah, at the last minute, the lesson title changed because the lesson changed.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Just in terms, just to frame us in time, that we have just come off of Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and the celebration that we have here in the States for to honor him and to honor the work that he has, that we continue to still feel the impact. And I'm grateful for the lessons that you gleaned out of his life and shared with us, and paralleling it with King David and the Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon. I mean, I was just really sitting back as a person who stands in front of people to speak, to just acknowledge the brilliance of the way you pull that all together,
Oh, thank you.
and didn't keep us there for 2 hours, because I think that might have been the like this podcast might be today.
Right.
I think it was really, really, really powerful. And one of the ways we celebrated King Day, my brother was here with his family and they were looking for like, footage and, about it. And that's great. It's good to look at that footage and to remember the shift in consciousness that happened in this
Yes.
country as a result of that, and to be reminded that, hey, shifts in countries can happen.
Hmm.
A
Yes.
shift can happen. But then to get a fresh perspective, which is what I felt like you brought to the celebration. I think I'm gonna just start by sharing this one comment, and then I'm gonna play the clip and we can dive off of there. But you said that King's primary goal was the elevation of mental consciousness. All right,
Yes.
I want you to break that down. I'm gonna play the clip, and I want you to share some more about that.
The error mentality of white supremacy was trying to rule the day. Dr. King was trying to elevate minds to cure a sickness. He was having a healing service almost every day over the whole nation. Consciousness elevation. He had to build the consciousness of communities. He had to build consciousness of blacks and minorities in the United States to know that we were worthy of the best. To even know that it is okay to push back against rules and laws that you know in your heart don't work with your soul. It's okay to push back. He has to elevate consciousness to do that. And then at the same time, he's elevating consciousness of people to see other people as children of God. Consciousness work.
So I don't know if many people think about the civil rights movements as a shift in consciousness. And that
Correct.
really hit me. So talk to me a little bit about what that, one, just kind of bridge me to like, okay, I'm hearing some relevant tones underneath here. Like, how can we apply that to what's going on in our world right now?
Yeah. So I think first of all we have to realize like we were dealing with a mass mentality that black people, minorities were inferior. Built by race consciousness over hundreds of years in America. And then you kind of get this, what we will call internally, chemicalization. We start to get some conflict between how black people want to be treated, the rights that we want to have, the way that we want to be seen as full citizens, and society as a whole saying, no, not yet. No, we're not going to drink out of the same water fountain as you. There's no way we're sitting in the same schools as you. There's no way we're riding on the same bus as you. It's just not going to happen. And so King, coming from this perspective of what I was seeing as New Thought Christianity, even though he's a Southern Baptist, he was saying, no, I'm going to elevate the way this whole country thinks. First, I'm going to elevate the way black people think about themselves, because you have to know that you're worthy of something to go through the struggle to get what is already yours by divine right. And he was teaching divine right. And then he was saying, because we are God's children by divine right, we should be treated like that under civil rights. And so I just wanted to bring that perspective forward, that he was teaching people how to think first.
Because other than that, and I think that that's where, when we think about what leadership is doing, we put a lot of pressure and emphasis on leaders
Yeah,
to do right, be right. But it's really just about, are they changing the way that we think? Are they leading and opening up a new way of thinking?
absolutely.
And that is, for sure, when I think about the real work that happened, it wasn't on changing the laws and changing the government. It was about changing the minds, which is I think what was one of it is really the, when you think any leader who has impact and they're changing minds,
Mm-hmm.
they become a target, right? They become a
Yes.
target, and it is, but the work pushes forward nonetheless. Um, Changing the way that you see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Linking that up with the start of this year, and talking about like how can we attribute that as we looking at New Year's resolutions and I'm setting off to be, I don't know what the catchy phrase is for 2026. But
Right. Yeah, no,
knew you
it's
in 22, but what's the
right.
26? What?
No, I mean, for a New Year's resolution, thoughts try to oppress you. Your own thoughts will try to oppress you. Situations and circumstances will try to oppress you. It's like things that you're going through will try to sit you in the back of the bus of life. And so, in order for you to even get to the space to overcome whatever you're facing, you first have to elevate the way you think about yourself. So, I was trying to bridge both of those ideas on a national level, but on an individual level. We're singing as a people, we shall overcome. Well, me as an individual, I must overcome. I am an overcomer. But let me make sure I'm programming my mind so that I can move in the way I need to move to receive what is mine by birthright.
Yeah. You know what popped up? So first of all, okay, I have to definitely ask myself the question of where am I in the back of the bus of my life? Like,
Right.
what is there an area where I have literally
You're
put
sitting in the wrong
myself in
seat.
a lower cast? I'm sitting in the wrong seat. I'm thinking about myself the wrong way. I think that's I love a question that cracks the atmosphere. That's a question that can crack your atmosphere. But this idea of I must overcome, taking this because I believe in the collective of community. But I think that one of the things I've witnessed in my own experience is that when I rely too much on community consciousness, then I'm susceptible to the shifts in the community. And what I mean by that is you have a leader who, okay, so King was assassinated.
Yes.
And the idea of I must overcome or we must overcome, there was some, people started to kind of have a different point of view of that because the leader was gone, which lets me know that some of the consciousness hadn't really been I must overcome, because nobody can take you away from you.
Right.
And that I think is a powerful way to think about that yeah, I must overcome, because if I must overcome, absolutely we can overcome.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The must is more important than the can.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the way you put it, like must, because once it becomes inevitable in your consciousness, then you will be able to see how God is laying out the path for you.
Yeah.
But you have to program yourself to know, like, no, I must overcome. It's not an option. This isn't a maybe this, maybe that. Like, this is going to happen.
So this I must overcome. I'm gonna play this next clip because just to give a path of where we're going, because what I'm doing is rewinding on the sermon from January 18th, lessons from a king, and I I love the structure. I'm gonna try to stick with the structure of your talk because like I said, I was a fan of your structure. So we got these three kings that were parallel. I'm like, yes, come, even though one of them kings was a queen.
Yes.
It's all good. It's all good. Sorry, I tickled myself. Let me play this clip.
You can always change the way you see yourself. That is the most important work. He says this is what you do first. Because we see the marches, we see the videos of the speeches. You've seen footage of him speaking with President Lyndon Johnson. You've seen videos of him leading leaders. But he said this is the most important thing. Number one should be a belief in yourself. Number one, before the government does whatever it's going to do, before the news tells you whatever it's going to tell you, number one, elevate your own consciousness. Number one, know who you are and whose you are. Start with the idea that I am a divine being, that I am made in the image of God, that I deserve the very best, because that is going to matter more than whatever is happening in any government.
So that is the answer, right?
Yes.
So like when you think you're so vexed by everything that's going on, and it's like, wait a minute, start. I love a step. Start with the idea that I am divine and made in the image likeness of God. Like, where can you go wrong if that's your start?
You can't go wrong. And even that was coming from a quote that was later in King's career. and he was speaking to a group of junior high students. And so I think in his mind, at this point, he's been through everything. Like, he's actually been beat up. He's been jailed multiple times. His home has been firebombed. He's going through all of the obstruction that comes with changing laws in the government. And he did change laws. But I could see King like saying, well, let me make sure you really get my point. Don't let anyone take your dignity. Don't let anyone tell you that you're nothing. Because he, like you said, when he's gone, or whenever the leader is gone, what are you left with within your own soul? Because as we can see today, 2026, there's always going to be some knucklehead out there.
Yeah.
In leadership, in government, in a position of power, trying to trick people into thinking they don't deserve the best. And so you have to start with your own self-confidence.
You used some real bad, you say some fighting words in this survey. And so one of them was social terrorism.
Yes.
So Reverend Della, my Reverend Dr. Della Reese, my spiritual teacher, would say you got to call a thing, right? That was her thing. You got to call a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so he's calling a thing. We're not gonna skirt around this.
Nah.
But I think the social terrorism, it hit me so hard because when I'm thinking about the weapons, right? Social media being used as a way to distribute and to terrorize, but also just in terms of the actions and what's reported, and how that connects. So tell me how you can. Tell me a little bit more about what is social terrorism, and then like what does my belief in my own dignity, like how does that help me to deal with the terrorism?
Right. So I use the word terrorism on purpose because even just the general definition of terrorism is really somebody trying to make a political point through violence, through means that are meant to hurt you. And so even socially, things will happen. People will say things, and not just governments, people, corporations and governments will say things really just to get you off track, to get you upset. It's like they're prodding you for your anger because your anger is somehow beneficial to them. And I didn't say it in the sermon, but I was really thinking of, it's a weird thing that this year we changed. You could go to all national parks for free on King Day. And this year that changed. Well, you can't go to national parks free on King Day. You can go to national parks free on Donald Trump's birthday. Now, in reality, that doesn't really affect that many people because King's birthday is in January. And national parks don't even get that many visitors in January. It's just terrorism. It's just meant to provoke you and get you angry and get you off your track for something that actually, in a day-to-day basis, doesn't really affect you at all. You weren't going to a national park.
Right.
On January 15th. But you can be tricked into spending 4 hours a day thinking about how terrible that is.
Right. That it's taking back your righteous mind. Like you can really, and I think that if you know who you are, like again, going back to that dignity within yourself, that's your spiritual identity, that it helps you to be able to hear those things through the right lens, because it can feel like another thing, you know what I mean? And everything can't be the straw that breaks you. Like that comment, it's like you can literally be living your life where every day is a new straw, right? A new straw to break me. If I believe I can be broken. Right. If I believe I can be broken. So one of my favorite lessons to talk about is the wilderness experience of the children of Israel. And so I love that you talked about the wilderness as it relates to King David and the power of the wilderness. Let's talk about, because listen, we can talk for the rest of the time about the wilderness because people love talking about the victory and the challenge, but the wilderness is where the work is. That's where the juice is. Okay. This clip right here.
But for his time in the wilderness, he would not have gained the strength and the knowledge to conquer and get to his next level. Don't look down on your wilderness experiences. Don't be ashamed of any tough times. You gotta get the lesson and the blessing out of it because it's actually meant to set you up for your next conquest. It's meant to fortify you against those arrogant adversaries, the setbacks, the betrayals, the losses. All of those things in your experience have a purpose and can actually make you stronger and make you move differently.
Okay, so many things. So talk to me first. Let's just set up, because I want you to set up just a little bit about King David and his wilderness experience.
Sure. So I was trying to make the bridge between David, the boy who slayed Goliath, and then we're all the way at the end where David is king of Israel, is king of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of meat in between those two places. So I wanted to really dive in, because a lot of times we don't look at when David was serving King Saul. At first he was, he's up here.
Yeah.
If you slayed Goliath, you had a lot of other victories. You're moving up in the ranks. And then Saul was like, no, you're doing too much. Now you're getting too popular. And he actually tried to kill him. And so he ends up being on the run for a lot of his military career. And he's hiding in all these weird places, and he's learning how to, scrounge for food, scrounge for water. It taught him a different way to fight. He's fighting guerrilla warfare now instead of fighting straight up. And all of those things ended up being the skills he needed in the largest battle, when he was finally conquering Jerusalem, because he moved and could think in different ways than when everything was just going according to plan and nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so just wanted to put that out there, because we all go through setbacks and we're put in situations where we're like, doggone it, I wish that had never happened. And I just wanted people to really rethink that. Look back at that wilderness time, because you got something from it. A toughness, a method, a way of thinking, a way of moving that you can use in your next step.
Right. I love the wilderness season, that part of your experience. We're talking about big battles, but I think that it's also little things like, you'll hear me talk a lot. I love the newness of the new year, and the idea that when you catch the vision in your mind, when you got that, you used your faith thinking and you got the idea, and it hasn't come into expression, that the period in between you could look as your wilderness season. It's like, how do I get from what God has given me to do,
right,
to me experiencing it? And like GPS, sometimes you got to know where you are, and it's okay to say, like, I'm in my wilderness experience right now. Like, so now I know how to look at it.
That's it. Gather all the tools and skills that you can, learn everything you can from it. And again, just talking about king, and obviously in Christian metaphysics, race doesn't exist, but in social circles, race exists.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a reason why Black creativity is so pervasive around the globe. Everybody dresses hip hop. Everybody likes our fashion. Everybody likes our style. We've created every genre of popular music in the world: blues, rock and roll, hip hop, jazz. But that all comes from the wilderness that we went through in America.
Mm-hmm.
All of those tough times brought about a creativity that could not exist but for being necessary.
Yeah.
You're not creating a genre of music like gospel, like soul music, without having to really touch God. You're not creating the blues. You're not even creating rock and roll if you haven't had those social experiences. And now the whole world wants to dance hip hop. The whole world wants to dress like us and act like us, even if they kind of look down on it. I look at K-pop and I'm like, wait, Koreans are rapping and dancing like we did in the 90s? But the pervasiveness and the greatness of the culture comes from everything we've been through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bless it and use it.
That it's like, make your wilderness work for you, because you're not meant to tarry in there.
Mm-mm.
But and that's some of what we have. But oh my gosh, like, why don't things work out for me? It's like, no, deal with what you have, get the skills you need, because that's going to help you. That's going to help you conquer Jerusalem. That's going to help you get into your promised land. Like, that's going to help you move into a society where we're like, all men are created equal. Like, you got to go through the wilderness to get there. But that's a high idea.
Mm-hmm.
And know that anytime you're working with a God idea, you're working with a high idea. And now I got to get my mind to be in alignment with it. Like
Right.
that's the wilderness. That's the
Yes.
wilderness. That'll preach, that'll write, that'll
No, yeah,
sing, that'll
that
do
could
it all, right?
no, we could have had a 3 hour service if I just really dove into every point, but order, order, order.
No, and I appreciate that. So I'm not gonna leave the wilderness quite yet. I got another clip I pulled
Come on.
about the wilderness and your testimony. So this is, let me see if I might need to set this up a little bit. So if, for those of you who are getting to know Gavin Jackson Esquire, that he's also a doing his mogul thing, uh, and in the business world, and specifically rocking in with restaurants. And oftentimes when you meet people who are in the business world, like it's if you work a 9 to 5, I will tell you that talking and rocking with entrepreneurs is a conversation you can't completely understand until you're walking in the shoes. So I've been walking in the shoes of an entrepreneur, and it's like,
Right.
so that check is not coming every other week.
Exactly.
unless I make it, right? Unless I make it. I can sleepwalk through work for a week and that check is still coming
Nope.
every other week. Not that I slept walk through work, but I could, you know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
did, I'm sure I did. But it's a different way to look at the world and look at what you're able to bring into expression. So you shared some moments about that, and I want to share this now.
But I don't mind talking about my setbacks because all my time in the wilderness sets me up for what is next. I use it. I use it. If I may not be able to go through the front gate, I can sneak through the back tunnels, open up the gate. We all going in. I don't get discouraged, and neither should you. That's the lesson from King David.
So, sir,
Yes.
so this is okay. So give it to me. I want you to share with me what you can, because you talked about just not being afraid to share your setbacks, right?
Yes.
Because you recognize the purpose. But relate to me the going into the tunnels and like these back end ways. Like talk to me a bit about that, because we need these wilderness tools, right? We
No,
need these.
that's real. It was so what I was referring to was when King David finally did conquer Jerusalem, the way he did it was sneaking into underground water tunnels and aqueducts that he learned about because he had to use them to hide and to find water when he was in exile. So the fact that he had been through all that, he knew that those ways and means existed, and that's how he snuck into the city and kind of breached the walls. And what I was thinking about in my mind, because in entrepreneurship, there are so many setbacks that people don't know about. I had a very popular restaurant in the south suburbs of Chicago, but most people don't know. By the time I got to that restaurant, there were two before that I tried to get, and the deal didn't work, and money was lost, and like an uncomfortable amount of money was lost to get to the point where you have, a multi-million-dollar business later. But because I'm in Christ Universal Temple, I'm surrounded by people that are always teaching and preaching, and I myself was a student, I could recenter myself and say, wait a minute, all of these things I tried to do that didn't work, there's some nuggets in there. And I would pull that, and I would use all of those failures and take the lessons out of it to build up to the next and the next and the next thing. And so that's what I was trying to get out, because sometimes people will have shame about things that didn't work out. Like entrepreneurs will have shame about losing money, particularly losing money that you felt like, man, I shouldn't have been using that anyway. That was my savings, and I've risked that. And that type of mentality will spiral you into further apparent failures. And so I was really just trying to encourage people, no, don't be ashamed of that. Study it.
Yeah.
How can that be used in the future when you're doing bigger things? You lost $500 here, but there's 5,000, 50, 500 waiting for you over there. So learn from the loss of the small loss here. You'll be ready for the bigger things later.
Yeah, it's easy to, when you're watching somebody else go through something and you're like, oh, because typically we don't know what people are going to until there's some success,
Right.
right? And so it's like, but in the moment when two deals didn't go through that cost you, you have to know that success. You have to know the promise. You have to know what your intent is so that you don't lose track of it, because people get lost in the wilderness, right? You get
Hmm.
lost in those experiences that are really fortifying you and strengthening you and helping you get to where you know what you know, right? Like
Right.
that's a there's a space where you just got to know what you know. It can't the proof, you don't need the proof
Hmm.
on the outside. You just know what you know because you know who you are. You talked about that spiritual dignity. You know who you are.
You got to have the dignity. And
Yeah.
just to be clear, it's not just in business, because people will try to make you ashamed of setbacks in anywhere in life.
Oh
I've
yeah.
seen people tease folks. Oh, I knew that relationship wouldn't work out. They got married to that person. Look at them, they're already broken up. Oh,
Hmm.
I knew they wouldn't keep that weight off. Look, they lost that weight and they've gained some of it back. On and on, like
Hmm.
negative things like that. And I really want people to, number one, shield yourself from that. But
Yeah.
don't be ashamed of these, apparent setbacks. Study them so that you know, okay, yeah, the next time I'm going to use everything I learned from that
Right.
so that I can conquer what I need to conquer. And then
Look, it goes back to being a scientist. Like, we're spiritual scientists. It's like you got to
yes.
try stuff out to see how it works. Like, I got to take this principle, and what if I apply it to this experience? What comes from that? Like, we got to get curious and playful about ourselves. That's something I run because a friend of mine who was close to D'Angelo talked about
Mm,
one of the things he shared being he took himself too seriously. Like, that was one of
mm,
his regrets, that he
okay.
took himself too seriously. Now we know that some of his journey was that music wouldn't come out because he got super self-conscious about things, and just this idea of I got to be the projection of what I gave everybody, as opposed to let me just play. Now you're going to get this version of me. Now you get this version of me. He took himself too seriously, and I think that we can be on this growth path
Hmm.
and not be curious enough to try things and be okay when it doesn't work out, because
Yeah.
you're gonna get some information in that. You know, there's not a straight line, and I think that that's something that I know I've needed to repeat to myself, because I was, I had early success right away. I never had to try real hard. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
just, it happened. And then once I outgrew that experience where I met up against some big unknowns,
Mm,
it was like, wait a minute, I don't know how to put my dukes up and fight for what I want. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, I'm sitting here like, what's happening to me? And but to know that, hey, now start trying some different things is, a big part of what happens in the wilderness. Horrible segue, but I'm getting ready to tell you. It's a horrible segue. Because you talked about these two kings, right? Martin Luther King Jr. and we're looking at King David. And man, I can't play the entire sermon. You can go back and watch the sermon at CU Temple, because it's worth watching. Because
Thank you.
you set up a picture of, we're talking about the civil rights movement 1956 and the beginning and the establishment of Christ Universal Temple, or specifically Johnnie Coleman's public work, like her public ministry, um, and the times that it came out of. And I love like taking sometimes history and getting into it. Like, this is what was going on, and this is also what was happening. We can miss that. Like, it looks,
Yes.
it's nothing. Right now, I'm a minister, right?
Yes.
And not a big deal.
Right.
But to have a woman who had the audacity
Hmm.
to declare, I mean, she earned she walked her walk, went to seminary and all that, but to say I'm a minister and without your permission, and to have a liberation message that was different than the
Yes.
message that was, come on, like the
Man,
audacity for that.
this was amazing. Yeah, when I was, when this lesson was downloading to me, we're thinking about King because it's Dr. Martin Luther King, studied King David, but I'm like, no, we're going to talk about our queen. We're going to talk about our founder, the Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon, because the beginning of her public work, as you said, came in the same period. So at the same time, King's home is getting firebombed because he's trying to teach people how to live a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Coleman says, I'm going to teach people how to live a better life. At the same time, Medgar Edgars is having his experience, and all of the, the police are brutalizing people. Little black girls bombed in their churches. She's saying, I'm going to start a church. And I just think the context of what was happening historically really lets you know how great a woman she was and is,
Mm-hmm.
but more important, how great each and every one of us are.
Yeah.
Without regard to what's going on in the environment.
Yep. The environment doesn't have to be something against you, that you can use it as a tool for your overcoming,
That's it.
And like there's a work. I'm gonna go into the clip, but there was work that happened during the pandemic when everything kind of shut down and everybody went digital, and it's like some people looked at that as an opportunity, right, to say, hey, there's some transformations I wanted to make, and resistance is low right now. Everybody's open to change, so let me rush in, and like they took advantage of a scenario that was, you could say, this is something that's happening negatively to me.
Mm-hmm.
And to use it to say, hey, this is a chance for me to double down and grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the table. But I want to talk about, so they just to give some context. So we're familiar with King's journey and story. We've been taught that on some level,
yes,
watered down or not, over the years. But Reverend Johnnie's story, to know that as a part of the unity movement, right, that there was that she integrated that movement in a way that was forced publicly. And the church was founded as Christ Unity Temple and became Christ Universal Temple for a reason,
right?
Because of a separation from that organization.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play this clip because it shows how there was a unity that happened, but to show her response to it, and just how dope she is. Okay, I'll play this.
They treated you disrespectfully, made you you couldn't even live with us when you were on campus. We know that we tried to cheat you out of your church. Another story for another time. And they made this very big deal out of trying to forgive her or beg her forgiveness. And she was basically like, what are y'all even doing this for? I forgave you a long time ago. And as the story goes, she says, once I forgive you, I forget you. I'm not even thinking about you anymore. You're the one with the guilt. I'm moving on, expressing God. She would not allow the degrading experience make her dislike them. Your circumstances, people around you, don't get to have the power over how you feel about people.
Look. So talk to me a little bit more about that moment with Reverend Johnnie, and then again applying it. You said that circumstances around you don't help you you shouldn't be impacted by that as you look at how you look at people. Talk to me about that a little bit.
So the seminary under which she studied, which changed her life, was Unity. And Unity was in the South, in Missouri, and people, Missouri's still the deep South. And so when she was studying, it was segregated. So she came out of Unity, changed her life. She started changing lives, built her own church in Chicago. She's teaching metaphysical Christianity to Black people in Chicago, and blew up. Like, her church is growing faster than the experienced, established Unity ministers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So first of all, she had already forgotten about the fact that they treated her like a second-class citizen the entire time she was studying there, and never considered her an equal. She'd already let that go. Then there was some legal wrangling around Unity, literally trying to take her church. Between 1972 and 1974, Unity's like, this is our congregation now. This is our building. And Reverend Coleman had to go through a legal fight just to protect what was hers. Then, I don't know the year, but it's probably about 20 years later, they were trying to say, please forgive us. Our elders were wrong, so on and so forth. And I've seen the video. She's sitting there, like, not even smiling. She's on stage, dressed as fabulously as she always does, just radiating. And she was basically like, yeah, I already forgot about you. The reason that's important now is because, and I'm talking from my perspective, I'm convinced that our current president is trying to get me to hate him.
Mhm.
I'm convinced of it. Like, and I don't mean me personally. I just mean me as an, amalgamation of Americans. It's like a thing after a thing. Well, we're going to cut SNAP. We're going to cut Medicare. We're going to bomb this country. We're going to attack there. We're going to take away these rights. Oh, we're going to send ICE into your community. It's a bombardment of things that could really make you a hateful person.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
Dr. King taught and Queen Coleman taught is that you and you alone have the right to control how you feel.
Yes.
King put it like, let no man drag you low enough to hate them. Queen Coleman said, once I already forgave you. And in fact, I've already forgotten you, because she's so focused on the God in her and her mission
Mhm.
that all of the hate, all of the oppression had it wasn't even in her mind. So like, oh yeah, that did happen. Oh well, what's my next good thing?
That's right.
What's the next good thing God is doing through and as me? And I think that's important for us right now, because we can't control, at least on an individual level, how many times people try to make us angry. But
Right.
we do have dominion and authority over our own thoughts. So
Yep.
I think, Reverend Coleman, she was teaching us that and walking it and showing it.
And it's like when it's not easy, right? Because
Right.
it's not just her, it's a congregation of people that are looking. There are people who, there are times in your experience, regardless of where you are, you don't have to be a celebrity, but when you are growing in the public eye, when you are growing and other people are, you're in a position where everybody's looking at you. It's like being a parent in a home. You're going through something, your family's watching you and how you manage that. You're the leader of a company, the leader of a department. People are watching you do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that what sometimes we can get caught up in, like, what do everybody see? What are they looking at? But
Right.
Reverend Johnny has a maximum around of people who are looking at her and
Yes.
how she is managing this. And to me, to say that I forgot you, meaning that there is no more energy I'm putting to this past
Yes.
experience. I've removed my creative power from that story, is such a flex, number one. But
Yes.
it's also like, this is how you think about everything.
Mm-hmm.
That if you got it, we got it. I got she she, of course, we study and teach principles that came to her, that she learned in Unity.
Yeah.
That's our approach to New Thought Christianity. I got it now, but I'm gone. The experience, I'm over that.
Over it. Because it wasn't just that, it was the sexism. We didn't even have time to dive into not just how she was treated as a Black person, but maybe even more so in Chicago, how she was treated as a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
And for her to say, I'm forgiving and forgetting, it was so instructive that I'm like, her wilderness experience
I'm through.
set her up to conquer her own Jerusalem in a way that I aspire to, and I want to teach it to everybody that'll listen.
I had a I discovered New Thought in 1996. And I don't know if it was that Christmas or the Christmas after, but I came home like, I'm about to transform everybody. Like, I'm coming, I'm coming with I'm about to transform all these. Like, you gotta wake up from from this traditional way of thinking, blah blah blah. And the attack that I got, because not that
Mm.
no one could even hear the message that I was trying to share, probably not
Mm-hmm.
so great, was new at it. But it was that I told them my teacher was a woman, that
Mm-hmm.
the pastor of my church, it was a woman, Reverend Della. And so nothing could be said, nothing can be heard after that. Like, how possibly? And we're
Right.
talking years later, right? This is what, 40 years later, 30
Mm-hmm.
years later, that I'm saying these same things to people, and it's not being received. So the crack in the atmosphere that she created, it's still like, we're still breaking that part open, that the word of God is not relegated to the male species, that it
Correct.
can come through other vessels, and that there are women who can lead a ministry and lead mega ministries. Like, it's possible that they can have had a yes to God, that 70 years later
Man,
we're still growing from. Come
if you
through.
really want to get too deep in it, when God wanted to bring forth the perfect idea of Himself, He left man out of it. He left Joseph out of it. He said, "Come on, Mary, we're doing this." But we can deal with that on another podcast. We can have a whole another rewind.
That's another rewind. That's because I think we do have to remember. I'm all about oneness, and I think that even when we talk about loving your own people, meaning the people that your lineage of the branch of the tree, it doesn't mean that the tree is bad. Like we are all one, and I'm honoring and acknowledging where I've grown from without denigrating anybody else. But you will have to sometimes just stand and say, look, but this branch.
Yes.
Right. This branch, I got to acknowledge its brilliance. I got to acknowledge its beauty. And I totally appreciate that, because we are, if you look up and look at what's going on, there's just divisive conversations that are happening, violent conversations that are happening, that social terrorism that you talked about. And we're susceptible to it as long as if we start to believe in the duality of people, and we start to believe that truly there are haves and have nots, and we believe that there's something wrong with them, and we got a them consciousness, them and us, them over there.
Right.
That just feeds the fight.
And I think I spoke to it. So first of all, sometimes there are things in my sermon that are coming live. So when you show me the clip, I'm like, oh man, did I say that? Because it wasn't written on the paper. I did not plan to talk about my businesses. I didn't plan to talk about our brothers and sisters in Minneapolis who are right now protesting en masse against what I would refer to as ICE occupation. But the message to them still is, yes, physically you're protesting, but mentally and spiritually you have to elevate yourself so that when you are doing your political work, you're doing it from the mountaintop.
Yeah.
You're coming at it as a spiritual operator, because that's what King did. That's what Coleman did. That's what David did. They're all battles. They battled in different ways, but it wasn't about the adversary. It wasn't about the physical tactics. It's always about the spiritual consciousness flowing through your physical tactics.
Yes. You ended talking about magnifying the Lord, right? That you said when you magnify the Lord, that means that we're allowing ourselves to be a vessel so that others can see through us. Because what do you do with this, right? Like it's kind of, we can talk about the what's happening, what's going on in our mind, but how do you get through the wilderness? How do you get through the space between your meantime, between catching God's vision for your life and experiencing it? Like, what do you do there? Especially when you come up against, some difficult challenges, and it was the remedy, the cure, the solution was to magnify the Lord. I'm gonna play this and then we'll chat.
Okay.
The greatest courage is to face what does not make sense to you on the surface, but then allow God to use you. You and I may not have to face death threats every day like King did, but we run up against opposition. Each and every one of us has. We all at some point or another had to become quiet so that God can give us the instructions for our next step. Don't give up your quiet. If you feel yourself spiraling out of news coming in from bills in the mail, news coming in from work, news coming in from businesses, news coming from a doctor, news coming in that you don't agree with, find a way to center yourself.
Find a way to center yourself.
Yes.
Magnify the Lord daily in the temple.
It's practical, and I have two teenage sons, 15 and about to be 18. Whew. But a lot of what I've had to teach them, and especially in their teenage years, is how to interact with police officers, right? Like that's just a thing. At some point in your life, you're going to get pulled over by the police. You're going to have an interaction. And it is about, I want that officer, no matter what their intent was, walking up to your car, walking up to you, I want them to see God. I want them to see the Christ in you. Like, you have to get quiet, and not just physically quiet, because it's angering, right? Like, if you're being pulled over for no reason, or you're being harassed racially, that can trigger you right out of your Christianity. And you're ready to let them know, what's what. There is a practice to say, nope, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And no matter what their intentions were, they are going to have to push past me emanating my Christ light in order to do whatever they thought they were going to do. And so I think it's a practice I definitely try to teach my own children, but I know that's a practice that all two kings and queens that we spoke about in this message, they had to use.
Yeah.
Because they still had all of the emotions that we have in our human selves. There was no way that at some point Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon wasn't furious about the way people would treat her. You can't even stand in this pulpit. You can. I don't want to go too far aside. I met an attorney. Well, I won't say their name, but they were part of a lawsuit to block the current location of our church being built on 119th and Ashland. They filed a temporary restraining order saying that they are about to practice witchcraft on that ground, and we need to block all permits. And this is in 1985, the church was built, so these lawsuits are in like 83. I had this conversation with them last year, and they apologized. They said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I cannot believe that I was fighting against such a good thing. But here's the real trigger to that story. She said what really kind of messed us up, and I don't want to name the person or the organization, but years later, Reverend Coleman ended up paying the electric bill for an organization that she represented for a whole year when their power was being turned off. So she had even looked past them trying to stop her and said, I'm going to help you.
Want to help you.
That's magnifying the Lord without regard to what is happening around you.
There's a song Reverend Della sang called Forgive It, Forget It. It was a whole little catchy tune. Forgive it, forget it, let it pass you by. It was a whole thing. And that's what it is. I had to forget the offense, right?
Right.
Because guess what? The church is there. It's huge. Right. It's huge. It's still there. It still stands. And so, but if I get caught up in the opposition, then that's where my energy will go, as opposed to the building, as opposed to, recognizing and demonstrating that we're built different, right? Built different, not working with that same stuff. I love what's popping in the chat.
Kevin Ross?
Yes. I love what's popping in the chat. Rev Kev is here. We're talking about your queen mother, he says, right?
Oh, wow.
And I actually mentioned Rev Kev somewhere recently, just in terms of being one of the Johnny babies that I know and love. He said, I know that Queen Mother, Dr. Coleman, is so pleased to see you both continue to speak her name, and more importantly, the principles and the foundation that she espoused. You are doing a fantastic job. Thanks, Rev. Continue to represent us well. Love you right back.
Man, that means a lot, Reverend Kev.
Yeah.
Like the influence that even he had, because I would see him preaching as a teenager, and I'm a few years younger than him, and I'm looking up like, wait a minute, it's okay it's cool to preach. This dude is saying this to other people, because I would hide my theology when I was younger, because like you said, people look down on you. I'm like, well, this is for me. I'm not sharing it. And I would see the Brothers of Thunder, as he and Dr. Dave were called back then. Johnny would have them speaking, and it definitely influenced me. So that means a lot, Rev Kev. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love it. And Bernard, I see you. Like, there's I'm going to say this, because then we're going to wrap out. But the idea, you said this, now you're referencing something we talked about a little bit ago, that people take faith and confuse and mix it with religion, and absolutely, what the truth supersedes religion, right?
Yes.
And so what we're doing is we can get lost, things can get lost in translation, can get lost in our communication. And so that's why we teach based on principle, because then you're not caught up in the religiosity of things. That's just the practice of the truth. And so how you practice is going to hopefully evolve. You know what I mean? Like, when I took PE, I had PE in high school, and we had a gymnastics setup, and that was the rotation. And I was just like, I can't do this stuff. But we had to go over those things. Well, going over that practice of gymnastics is different than the ones people who were going to the Olympics. Like, it's a different level of practice. So
Yes.
religions have different levels in terms of like hitting at the transformative principle. Now I won't dig into that too much, but we definitely don't want to confuse our faith, meaning our ability, our relationship with God, our ability to see into the possibility of all good
Hmm.
and grab what we choose, what we create out of that as our blocks, our creative blocks. We don't want to confuse that with what the laws of the land that are where people are trying to control people through their conversations about God. We don't want, but that's just two whole different things.
But
And I agree
when
to,
you're expressing at that level, it kind of supersedes the cultural practices. When
yeah,
King marched on Selma and he did a call to all people of God, there were rabbis that joined him. There were Catholic
that's right.
priests that joined him. There were people of all faiths that walked with him. Betty Shabazz came down and spoke with Coretta Scott King when he was in jail. So it superseded that religion. The story I just
Yeah,
told you about Reverend Coleman, there are other churches, not just Christian churches, there are other religious organizations that once stood against her that she helped.
hmm hmm
Because like you said, like Bernard said, the truth supersedes the practice of the actual religion.
yeah. And we're all about oneness here, right? So even we got to grow up our oneness, right? So the idea that a woman can't be in a pulpit, just the idea that you have that we can't be in the same schools together, just the idea that we are ruled by tyrants. All of that, we got to grow up. We got
Right.
to grow up our minds to the idea of oneness and recognize that once we've discovered who we are individually, the power and presence of God that abides in us individually, we can then begin to magnify that. Like, that then begins to draw us all together, and we can recognize what that power looks like collectively. And that is the opportunity that we have. Let me tell you, darkness cannot overcome the light. It just cannot. It
That's
just
it.
cannot.
But you
And
have
I'm
to
grateful
remember
for that.
that when you're doing your work, it is your job to emanate that light.
Mhm. Yes. So this has been powerful. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Gavin, for this sermon. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for saying yes when you started being shifted in terms of moving in a different direction.
absolutely.
And because I think that we had a great experience there on Sunday, but I also think that that it made it more fun to rewind on it. You could preach that other sermon another time.
I will.
Uh, yeah, preach that another time. Listen, I got four in the can of that. That's the one that was supposed to be the one.
Yes.
But yeah, but I'm grateful for that. Thank you all for tuning in. Those who are able to come watch us live, we appreciate that. Know that the rewind, we're at you every week, rewinding on the lessons from Christ Universal Temple that's based in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us on all social platforms at CU Temple. And we are just grateful. Gavin, do you have anything that's going on new and fresh that you want to share before we wrap out? You got 40
Well,
seconds.
no, number one, always, I got to promote my book. You can find my book, Mind Plus Grind, on Amazon. Just search my name, Gavin R. Jackson, on Amazon and purchase your copy today. Start your new year right with that book. I will also be preaching at our sister church, Verity Center, in Toronto, Canada. They are celebrating 46 years, 46th anniversary this
Mhm.
Sunday. So I'll be in Canada, but it is streaming on YouTube, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Please catch me there.
Awesome. That's so cool. Well, the Reverend Dr. Evan Reed founded, and
Yes.
the Reverend Lemetria Hall is the senior minister.
Yep.
Very, very cool. Oh, I'm so grateful that you are letting that light shine, Gavin. I'm
Thanks.
so grateful. It's been fun to watch your process and your growth.
We're
We'll
gonna
be
keep it
back
moving.
next week.
Oh, and
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
say thank you to Dottie as always. That's our
Yes.
social media matron, Dot McKeever Jeter. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Listen, you need magnifier. She
That's
magnifies
it.
us so much. So grateful for that. So thank you all for you again. If you're tuning in live, if you're ever watching this later, thank you. We bless you right where you are. And I'm grateful and grateful for you. We'll be back next week with a rewind. God bless you real good. We'll see you then.